Geographers. There we go. Full screen it. Yes, Mike. Good. Check. Woo! Welcome to Unit 3, Day 3. Woo-hoo-hoo! Man, it's good to be back. Same time, same place. Today, we are reviewing Unit 3 of AP Human Geography. Welcome to everyone across the world, across the country. It's a good one. We are going to be going into culture. We're going to get into shout outs in just a second, but by now you do know the drill. Make sure that you get the guided notes for this stream. Again, we are going over the CED. So this is the stuff that we're going to be talking about: introduction to culture, cultural landscape, cultural patterns. These concepts are what you need to know. So if you're looking at this, you're like, I don't really know what cultural relativism is or ethnocentrism. We got to make sure that you get that down before we get to the AP test. So this document's part of the free preview, the AP Human Geography Ultimate Review Packet. This is the CD that we're looking at today. This is the content that College Board is going to test you on. Yes. Also, if you need to, here's the guided notes if you would like. But if you want to take notes on your own, by all means, that is okay as well. So let's get into the video. But first, best part, let's see where people are from. So shout out in the chat. I'll pin some up there as some people are getting those guided notes. We'll get it started. We already got over 2,000 people here live. This is exciting. Woo! All right. What do we got? We got Illinois, New York, Texas, Mr. Johnson from Florida, Illinois, Texas, a lot of Illinois, a lot of New York, Texas, Oregon. There we go. There we got a different one. Columbia, St. Pete, Long Island, Texas, St. Paul, Minnesota. Represent Minnesota. Dallas, Texas, New York, Seattle, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alaska, Georgia, Atlanta, Virginia, Tennessee. On the road. All right. Hopefully, if you're not driving, Iowa. Cool. We got people from all over South Carolina. Man, it's always cool seeing where everybody is from. So welcome, everyone. We are going to be getting started, and we're going to be, here we go, talking about Unit 3 today. So just like before, the first part of this is all about culture. We're going to go over the notes. The second half is going to be our Kahoot. So actually, to get started, just like yesterday, what we're going to do is, because I split this live stream, so that way the people who didn't watch it live, who just want the notes, can watch just the video that has the notes. So we film an intro for it. So this is the behind the scenes again. I think of our intro today. All right. Geographers, welcome to the Unit 3 Cultural Patterns and Processes recap of the live review. Now, this part is just the notes. If you want, check us out live. Right now, we got over 2,450 people in the chat. It is awesome. We got people from all over the country. So make sure you check us out for Unit 4 tomorrow at 7 p.m. Right now, though, we're going to be going into the notes, and we're looking here at culture. So pretty exciting. Unit 3 of AP Human Geography. Let's get started. So right off the bat, again, I'm going to try to get to the chat in a little bit. We'll do a lot of interaction like before, but I'm also at this point of the kind of live stream really focused on just going over the notes. So right off the bat, culture, we have to understand, is pretty complex. Now, we have a couple different types of culture. We have material and non-material. Let me know in the chat, what's the difference between the two? So I'll try to pin one of those there. And as you guys are trying to put what's the difference, oops, I minimized that. Have to be able to see it. So as you're trying to put the difference between material and non-material culture, I'm also going to talk about subculture. So realize culture is a variety of things. We're looking at music, we're looking at food, we're looking at clothing, we're looking at traditions and religions and languages. And we have overall a culture like your school. Your school has a culture for the entire building. Now, there's also a subculture to it. So a group of people within this larger group or within a larger society who share distinct set of beliefs and values and practices. So, for example, your AP Human Geography class probably has a subculture within the broader context of your school. I bet your class has its own inside jokes. Your class has its own kind of feel. You have maybe even some traditions that you have. It has its own vibe. A subculture is below that larger cultural group. So that would be the difference there. Let's see here. We got for material culture, physical things. Non-material would be things that are taught and practices. Non-material is based more on facts. An example would be beliefs or artifacts. Yeah. So if we're looking at that, material is tangible, non-material is intangible. Yeah, so like material would be like your clothes that you're wearing, the different like physical things. Where non-material would be things like values, social norms, language, symbols, rituals, and stuff like that. So make sure you just understand the basics there of these definitions for culture. Now, when it comes to culture, we have different perspectives. And we'll put this one on the screen. So if you need to see it, maybe it'll be a little easier to see. These are the two that you want to make sure you have an understanding of, and make sure you know the difference between these two. Again, we mentioned this yesterday. Quick cut back. College Board knows that certain terms are similar and that students will mix them up. And so oftentimes you may see certain terms kind of put together on a test. So a question asking about ethnocentrism might have a possible answer that is cultural relativism. College Board isn't trying to trick you. They're just trying to see, do you really know what ethnocentrism is? So you have to make sure you have a good understanding of similar terms, because if you see both of the terms and the definitions in a question, you want to make sure you know exactly which one goes to which pair. So with cultural relativism and ethnocentrism, realize we're looking at another culture. Ethnocentrism is this practice of we're analyzing, judging a culture by our own perspective. I'm not trying to see from the perspective of the other individual. So for example, you got this little cartoon down here. How do I get to the other side? What are you talking about? You are on the other side. This would be an example of ethnocentrism. The chicken over here is looking through the chicken's perspective at this chicken. They're not practicing cultural relativism. Cultural relativism, on the other hand, is when we're going to judge a culture by its own standards. Now, what that means essentially is you're not necessarily agreeing with the culture. You're not changing your point of view, but you're just seeing it from their perspective. So for example, maybe there's a student in your class who is very different than how you would normally behave or act, or has different ideas and values. And you might not agree with those, but you can understand maybe, okay, well, how was that student raised, or what things might they be going through? And you can put yourself in their position to try and understand that perspective. You're going to then view their actions through their standards, through their perspectives. So that would be the difference there between ethnocentrism and cultural relativism. Again, make sure you got those two terms down before you go and take the AP test. Now, the next part is a big thing, and we've already mentioned it actually before in some of our earlier streams, and it's the cultural landscape. Now, realize the cultural landscape is visible human modifications of that natural environment. So in Unit 1, we talked about environmental interactions, and we talked about ways in which we modify the world and we modify our surroundings. And cultural landscape is part of it. And this is a big part that you want to make sure that you have practiced before the AP test. So on the screen here, we got some different images. These are different ways in which the cultural landscape has been modified to reflect culture. Real quick in the chat, anyone know what religion does this connect to? And also, what is this building? So let's see if people can get that. And as people are putting that down in the chat, I want to point out a couple things when we're looking at the cultural landscape. So realize whenever we're observing photos, or whenever we're observing a landscape here, we can see different aspects of society. I can gauge maybe economic development. I can gauge different cultural values. I could gauge the density of how many people are maybe living in an area. And right there, I connected there to multiple units. For example, here I can see the bricks and stuff that are used, the colors, actually how compact everything is. These houses are essentially built on top of each other, shows that this is probably in a more densely populated area. The resources here, things look a little weathered, maybe not as economically developed of a region. I can also see that the flat roofs and everything here, this is telling me that this is probably in a location that is a lot warmer, so closer to the equator, compared to up here where this roof, which would be the style that we got in Minnesota, it's actually designed to keep warm air in. Like my roof in Minnesota, we got the nice little peak there, and that's because as the heat rises, we want to contain it, and that's because it's located, especially where I am, in a colder environment. So come winter, you want that house to keep the heat in. Where if I got a flat roof, heat rises, hits the windows, and it goes out. You want it to escape the house because it's warmer, so you want to reduce that. So these are observations that we can make when we're looking at the cultural landscape. And we could also see too in this image over here, we have like agricultural practices, which would connect to Unit 5. We have religious things. We have tourist spots. Even the types of buildings back here would show that this is definitely, in the clothes as well, more kind of pop modern culture, this globalized culture. So this is stuff you want to practice when you see an image that you can kind of quick do in your mind of like, okay, quick observing. What am I noticing? What am I seeing? How do I kind of break down an image quick? All right. What do we got? A couple of people saying, can I keep the slides on? I'll try to keep the slides on longer if you're taking notes. So I will try to do that. I just saw some of the ones. There's so many of the chats now. So people are saying Buddhism, Hinduism, Hindu. So right now what we're talking about is this image here. It's not Buddhism. It is not Hinduism. It would be Sikhs, the Sikhs, and it is the Golden Temple. So this would be one of our universalizing religions. We will talk a little bit more about the Sikhs and the Golden Temple later in the stream, but this would be an example of Sikhism. So this is the Sikhs, and that would be the Golden Temple there. So yep, Sikhism. If you said the other religions, no worries. So a lot of people said Hinduism, some people said Islam, and a lot of people said Buddhism. That's why we're here to learn. We're here to practice and review. All right, let's go into some more vocab. I'll leave it on the screen so people can take notes. One aspect of the cultural landscape that we can observe is sequent occupancy. And this is the impact that past cultures and societies, as we can see, have had on a geographic area. So I have a picture of the Berlin Wall here. We'll also talk about the Berlin Wall in Unit 4. So tomorrow when we look at relic boundaries. But this would be an example of sequent occupancy because past cultures are still shaping our society today. They've left a mark on our communities, on our environment, on the built landscape, in our cultural landscapes. So sequent occupancy, make sure you spend a little time just remembering what this term is. Sometimes students forget about this. It is in the CED. You want to make sure that you know it for the AP test. So we have this impact again of past cultures on our cultural landscape today. A couple other ones. Architecture is a lot of times students like quick blow by these and they forget to study them. There's three types that you want to be familiar with. So we can see traditional, modern, and postmodern architecture. This is just how buildings are designed. So remember when you're studying traditional architecture generally reflects more of the cultural and historical characteristics of a society. Modern then kind of changed gears and now we focus on simplicity and functionality. And then postmodern came around because people started to realize, hey, there's kind of something nice about things not all being homogenized and not all being the exact same. We want to bring back some of that kind of historical reference and diversity to some of our buildings. So sometimes places in the United States, if people from other countries come to the US and they're going through some US towns and neighborhoods, they'll kind of rip a little bit because a lot of our neighborhoods are all these kind of, they're called cookie cutter neighborhoods where all the houses look the exact same. They don't reflect any unique cultural elements. So it's different preferences there. These are the three types of architecture that you want to be familiar with. So hopefully that helps with there. We're gonna go on to the next one because these are just kind of vocab. So if you need more time on this slide, by all means, you can always go back and look at that again. All right, next part is one that's already come up, and it is land use. So realize that humans, we modify land for a variety of different reasons. And when we are observing land, we gain insight into what a society prioritizes, where their values are, what type of economy they have, what jobs they might have. All these things reveal just from looking at how land is being used. If land's being allocated all to agricultural production, that gives us insight about that society. So remember with land use, these are our different patterns that we have: agricultural, recreational, commercial, residential, industrial, transportation. These are kind of the main ones that we have. I can move that down so you can see it better there. These would be ones to be familiar with. It's not like you're going to get a test question that's going to say like, which of the following is not one of the forms of land use patterns. It's more of though, when you're looking at images and stimuli components, can you understand how land is reflecting culture and how culture has influenced that land? Like, for example, if we look at many US cities, we don't have a lot of public transportation. I mean, if you're in really large areas like Chicago or New York, then you're going to have a variety of like the subway. You'll have more bus stops. You'll have different train stations and stuff. But many US cities don't have as much there. It's more common for us to drive 30 minutes to work, 40 minutes to work. If we look at other societies around the world, that's actually very uncommon. People live a lot closer, or they're going to use more public transportation. So these little things just give us insight into a society. And just remember, land use is what we're looking at there. All right, up next is culture and places. Now, this is the next part of the unit. And remember, place is made of two things. Anyone remember what place is made of? So I'll try to pin a comment. I will go back all the way down. I realize I've missed some super chats. I realize I missed some comments. I'll get to the super chats a little bit later and everything there. Site and situation, I see people saying site and situation are part of a place. I'm looking for two other terms. Site and situation are a factor. Maybe I should have reworded a little bit. Location would be part of it. Physical landscape. So place is made up of the physical components, the physical characteristics. And then there's one more as well. A sense of place does come. We're going to talk about a sense of place in just a minute. It'd be, physical, cultural, or the human aspect. So a place, we have the physical components, but we also have the human characteristics. So both of these end up creating a place. When we're looking at a place, we're looking at the physical environment, but we're also looking at like how many people are living there, what cultures are there, what is that built landscape. Now, one of the ways in which places are changed is through a concept called placemaking. So remember, when studying placemaking, this is a process of actually bringing a community together to transform this public area, so public space, for different activities. And the activities, events generally end up unifying the community. What would be a vocab term that we could use from Unit 3 and Unit 4 as well? That would be something that pulls people together. So think about it for a second, put it in the chat. I'll try to put some there. But this would be placemaking, this process of a community coming together. They're transforming a public place. Yes, centripetal force. Centripetal force. So P for pull. Anyone know the opposite? What would be something that pushes people apart? Or I shouldn't say push apart, because we want to remember like that P for pull. So centripetal forces unite and bring people together. Centrifugal forces, F for force, we're forcing people away. Those would divide. So yes, centrifugal forces will come up later in this course. Woo, good job. Okay, so placemaking is stuff where we're transforming the space. Another concept that you want to know when it comes to place is a sense of place. And I saw people in the chat already talking about a sense of place. Realize a sense of place is this kind of emotional connection people get with a specific area. Like you think about when you're driving back from a vacation, back to your hometown, you feel at home, like it's familiar. You know the sounds, the smells, you know the looks, you know where things are. It's this kind of perception a person has with a particular area. And different places convey different amounts of like a sense of place. Like if you go to New York City, you're going to feel a very unique sense of place there. There's a lot of horns. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people. There's tons of different cultures and languages. If you're in Times Square, you're going to notice it's really packed. It's loud. It's light. It doesn't really ever stop at night. All of these contribute to a sense of place. Now, sometimes we don't have really that feeling of a sense of place. And this would get into our next concept, which would be placelessness. Now, realize placelessness is when a place does not invoke any strong response from an individual. Generally, this happens because the place lacks unique characteristics. So that could be due to a variety of reasons. So for example, some places in the US, they don't necessarily have a strong sense of place. If you go through and you look at, if I just showed you like different pictures of towns, unless you're really good at GeoGuessr, you probably couldn't tell the difference between them because we have a lot of now multinational corporations. The cultural landscape all looks the same. So it's lost some of that unique characteristics, those historical things that made it unique and different. This would be placelessness. So the place no longer has any like response from an individual. The other term that you want to be familiar with here is the built environment. So realize when we're looking at our environment in the cultural landscape, oftentimes we're talking about the built environment. And these are human-made structures that shape that physical characteristics of a place. So again, a place is made up of human characteristics and physical characteristics. The built environment is what humans have modified and changed of that area. And it creates that sense of place. It creates that cultural landscape. So have an idea of placemaking, sense of place, placelessness, and that built environment. Those all could be on the test. All right. Some people are asking about the Kahoot. Kahoot will be at the end. All right, couple examples here. So you can see we have homogenized, uniform cultural landscapes. Excuse me. I'm like, the live streams are kind of taking it out of me a little bit. I've been starting to get a little bit sick, but that's okay. Show goes on. All right. So when we're looking at this, you can see this is what I was referencing before of like some of the neighborhoods. They all kind of look the same. The Chipotle's, the McDonald's. This would be a unique sense of place right here. Right away, this image, you can probably tell me right where it is. And that's because of that unique sense of place, that placemaking that's occurred, this environment, that built landscape that is so unique. That makes it stand out. And so, however, things like this, you probably have no idea where this Chipotle is. You might have a Chipotle like this right by you that looks very similar. Same thing with the McDonald's or maybe even some houses. All of these things create more of a homogenized, uniform landscape. And some people yesterday were asking what homogenized is. It's just essentially everything's kind of the same. So realize you might see homogenized or uniform on the test. It's not necessarily directly in the CD, but these are other words that can sometimes pop up when we're describing different concepts. So have an idea with that. All right. If you do need more help with any of the cultural landscape stuff, by all means, you can check out the Ultimate Review Packet. I actually made kind of a 4-minute video and I just break down all these concepts and I just show you examples, and it's all animated and stuff. So it's highlighting the different components to look for in images. So that way you can better identify like sequent occupancy or a built landscape, all of that stuff. So if you're interested, by all means, you can check it out. But we're going to be going on to the next thing, which is diffusion. Anyone know the 2 broad types of diffusion? So we'll kind of engage with the chat again. What do we got? The 2 broad types. I'm not looking at the specific ones yet. There's 2 main types. What do we got? It is relocation and expansion. Relocation and expansion. Stimulus, diffusion, contagious. Those would be more of the subtypes. We'll talk about that in a second. But relocation and expansion. So realize with relocation diffusion, we have a physical movement occurring. Movement of a cultural group or a trait from one place to another place. Physically just moving. That's it. Don't overthink it. One of the things that starts to happen with relocation diffusion as we, well, get in the frame. It's weird. It's all mirrored on my side. As we're going from this point to over here to this point, this origin point starts to shrink. It gets smaller because people are physically moving. The trait is physically going. Expansion diffusion, on the other hand, remember, it's like math. That origin point doesn't necessarily shrink. It actually just kind of grows. This is the spread of a cultural trait or a group of people from one place to another through person-to-person contact. So we're adding more people. Relocation, we're not adding more people. We're just physically moving. So remember those differences. Now, when it comes to diffusion, remember the different types of expansion diffusion. And I'll put them on the screen so this kind of helps out a little bit. We have contagious, hierarchical, reverse hierarchical, and stimulus. These are ones you want to make sure you have an understanding of. All of these could be on the AP test. There's a high probability. It's a big part of Unit 3. It also connects into some of the other units as well. So remember, contagious, I like to tell students, like, think about contagious diffusion. Like maybe your teacher did this in class. I would do it in mine, where you'd start peeling like an orange. The smell of citrus would just diffuse through the room. Or if I just started making coffee in the room, all of a sudden, like that smell just diffuses through everyone. There's no barriers. It just diffuses throughout the area, regardless of social class, power structures, religion, any of that. That would be contagious diffusion. A lot of times people think of like viral videos. Hierarchical diffusion is we have this top-down system. So we have this top-down diffusion occurring. So for example, like Apple has, you have your CEO, they're going to make decisions and they have their like board of directors. Then they go through down to like the managers, eventually gets down to the workers. So diffusion's happening through this like kind of pyramid. We have a power structure there. Not everyone gets it at once. Now reverse hierarchical is just the opposite. We start at the bottom, work our way up. I believe pickleball would be an example of reverse hierarchical diffusion. So like pickleball started with like a family created it. Then eventually they played it with some of their friends. They spread it through their town. Then it went through their like community. Then eventually got to bigger cities. And now it's gone national. So we start at a lower power structure In this case, we're looking at like a family structure and like a settlement, and then eventually made it up to like the national level. So reverse hierarchical, we start on the bottom, now we're on the top. Stimulus, on the other hand, remember, this is this idea or trait. As it's spreading, we see innovation and changes happening. Starbucks would be an example of that oftentimes, or McDonald's for sure. McDonald's changes their menu depending on where they are in the world. They adapt to the different cultural practices and places that they're located in. And so that's stimulus diffusion. McDonald's is still McDonald's, but we can see it's a little bit different depending on where you are in the world, what's on the menu, what the stores look like. If you ever want to see some cool images, look up like the different types, or like the coolest McDonald's in the world. There's some really cool styles of McDonald's buildings around the world. We don't have time to show them all now, but it is kind of cool to see. There's some really cool ones in like Korea and Japan that look like completely different than what we have in the US. If you do need help with the diffusion, of course, I got this quiz in there, and I also have a video exclusive just on the types of diffusion. The quiz is looking at, like you can see a screenshot here, different scenarios, and then you're identifying the type of diffusion. The goal of this is hopefully to get you practice on being able to understand how to connect these types of diffusion to real world examples. So that way you're better prepared for that AP test. And all the quizzes too have explanations explaining why each answer is right or wrong. And then that video just breaks down some more stuff there. So if that helps you, by all means, check it out. All right, now we're going to go into the next part, which is historical causes of diffusion. The rest of not the rest, because we have languages and also the religions. But a lot of Unit 3 is looking at the different aspects of diffusion and how it connects into all these different aspects of our life. And one part, when we're looking at historical causes of diffusion, be familiar with like colonialism, imperialism, trade. Now, you don't have to memorize all the dates. You don't have to know all of the different colonies and things of that nature, but realize that those led to diffusion. And there's different ways in which they led to diffusion. Sometimes it was through relocation diffusion, where we saw people physically moving from one place to another. For example, as colonies were being set up. Then as they got there, we would see expansion diffusion happen. And this is why it's important on the AP test to always read the prompt, the scenario, whatever you're looking at, whatever question you have, because depending on the context, we might be focusing on a different aspect. So that's just important to understand. Like, for example, well, we'll get into it in just a second. We're going to actually connect into some different examples in a little bit. But all right, a couple things with, though, historical causes. Be familiar with a lingua franca. That can come up on the test. This is one of the vocab terms. Remember, that's a language that's more commonly used between different people who speak different languages. So it's a language that's commonly used as a means of communication between people who speak different languages. Anyone know lingua franca, an example of one? So put one out there. What do we got? Let's see. English. Yes, English would be a lingua franca. Part of that is also because of colonization. Like the sun never set on the British Empire, it expanded all over and it diffused the language of English. And so a lot of people speak English today. Another term you want to be familiar with is creolization. So creolization, this is when different cultures come together and we start mixing. And this creates new cultural practices, new languages and identities. Now, traditionally, this is connected always to colonization. So be aware of that. If you see creolization, generally you're going to see something with colonization. So we have different cultures coming together and mix, and that's creating something new. We have some new cultural practice or language or identity that is formed. The other term that you might see, so some people are saying Haitian Creole. Yes, that would connect. Swahili, that would connect. Those would be examples of creolization. So can we yes, there we go. Give the credit to the people who are pointing it out there. Awesome. English for trade. Yes, that is also a thing with lingua franca. Yeah, you could also connect it into globalization, stuff with Unit 4, even Unit 7 as well. So great connections there. That's one of the cool things. As we get through this course, you really start to get to see how everything connects together. Now, one other term that's not necessarily specifically in the CD, but I do want to just point it out because it has come up before, is a diaspora. This is just the dispersion of any group of people from their original homeland. And most of the time, pretty much all the time, it's due to forced migration. So, for example, like the Atlantic slave trade would create a diaspora where we have people who have been taken from their homeland. They're no longer located there. They have been forced out. So we have this forced migration that has happened. So if you see diaspora, that's what it's referencing. sometimes it does come up with historical causes of diffusion due to different past events. All right. Yes. We are going to go on to the next thing. I saw like some questions in the chat. I was trying to see, is someone saying like, is it worth memorizing? You can, if you want, you could definitely like spend some time on diaspora. It's not that big of a complex word. It's not directly in the CD, so you're not gonna have like a direct question on it. But just in the past, I've noticed it gets connected to things. So it can't hurt for sure to understand that. All right. Now, speeding up to more modern day where we're looking at contemporary causes of diffusion, and we can put a little graphic, get some AI art back on the screen. Everybody loves it or hates it, one of the two. But contemporary causes, we're looking at globalization, urbanization, technological advancements, the military, political and economic relationships. Realize that all of this stuff can lead to diffusion today. Right now, all of you are experiencing diffusion, whether you realize it or not. I would guess that most of you are not from Minnesota. As great of a state it is, I would bet most of you are not. Just from reading the text, or the chat, we have a lot of people from Texas. We have a lot of people from New York. Those seem to be the two biggest ones. So right here is diffusion. Due to the internet, due to technology, I'm able to talk to all of you, and we have the diffusion of ideas. You're all interacting in the chat for better or for worse. Hopefully for better, but you're interacting with other people. We have diffusion of ideas again. So realize that technology has a huge impact today, especially social media and this globalized world we live in. All of this stuff has led to more and more diffusion, which is great because it allows for new goods to come. It allows for new ideas. It allows for more prosperity. It also highlights too, which is interesting enough, when we're looking at the world, particularly areas that maybe have more dictatorships, it leads to people realizing, oh, maybe my way of life, my government isn't doing good. And I can start to get information about what's happening in other places. And that can lead to things like devolution, which we'll talk about in Unit 4, or democratization, which again, we'll talk about in Unit 4. So these concepts of contemporary diffusion come back up later in this course as well. All right. Going on to the next thing, we have two terms you want to be familiar with. One is cultural convergence. Just realize this is a process that cultures become more similar over time. Generally, it occurs due to globalization, increased interactions, close proximity of different groups. The closer people are over a period of time, they start to become more and more similar. We take on cultural traits without necessarily even realizing it. Even the classmates in your class throughout this school year, you've probably bonded with some of them. You've probably started to pick up different mannerisms, or maybe even by watching different videos, for example, even these videos, maybe you started to pick up different ways that I say words that are a little bit different. So cultural convergence happens, this process in which cultures are becoming more similar over time. And this is the opposite of our next term, which is cultural divergence. This is where different cultures become more distinct. So we have this like kind of divide happening. Oftentimes this happens due to like separation. So for example, if there's physical separation between different places, that can actually lead to groups to start forming different perspectives and cultures, and can strengthen unique cultural identities, beliefs, and practices. And sometimes that can lead to different tensions. So for example, if we want to connect, I feel like I'm connecting a lot into Unit 4, but we're going to do it again. We can look at the Basque people. They're kind of isolated by a mountain range in Spain. That has allowed their culture to become more and more unique and maintain a lot of their elements. And so they've actually been still having self-determination and have been trying to get their own state. That would be an example of cultural divergence. If we want to go back all the way to when America was just the colonies, that's separation by the ocean. We eventually became more and more unique. We had our own culture there, cultural divergence. So this happens generally because of this division, and cultures become more distinct over time. So realize the difference between divergence and convergence. It definitely could be on the test. All right, cool. Some people saying the Basques. What about the Basques? The Kurds? All right, we will go into all of those for more tomorrow. I'm just trying to connect into the other units to hopefully give you a better idea on how these concepts all connect. And that's the cool thing in this course. And the more you can make those connections in your mind, like when you're studying and you can connect to other units, easier the AP test will be. All right, the next part we have is the religions. So take a second. What is this religion right here? This isn't a universalizing one. What would be this religion? What would be also a significant place or like a house of worship for this religion? So remember, when we're talking about, I got a bunch of people always saying Christianity. This would be Christianity. Yes, Jesus would be a big part of this one. The church, that would be the house of worship. That is correct. So different symbolisms that we can see in the cultural landscape. So you do not have to memorize. I want to point out, when you're looking at studying the religions, don't worry about studying every single disciple or prophet or all of the different historical events. There's a lot of them. Focus on where the religions originated from. Focus on understanding that place of worship. You can focus on like a brief description of the faith, but also focus mainly on the diffusion and how it impacts the cultural landscape. So those are the important parts to kind of focus here. Remember too, and we'll put the next one up. So take a second. What religion is this? Also, what is the house of worship? But with these universalizing religions, these are all examples of universalizing religions. These are religions that are actually seeking to appeal to all people. They're going to expand. They want to spread their teachings and beliefs to as many people as possible. Yes, so we have Islam. It is Islam, and that would be a mosque. Correct. Not Hinduism, not Buddhism. Nope, it is Islam. And it would be a mosque. That would be significant. The house of worship's there. All right, next one here. We have another universalizing religion. What do we got? Also, what is the kind of house of worship or the significant spot? Buddhism. So yes, it is Buddhism. Buddhism. Anyone know what would be a significant? We got a temple. All right, anyone know what the temple? There's a name for it. It starts with a P. Temple, Buddhism, temple. Yeah, there we go. This is the first one I saw. Dino Nuggets. All right. Way to go, Dino Nuggets. Yes, pagoda. So that'd be a significant place of worship there. All right. Our last universalizing religion. So what do we got? Remember, so far we've had Christianity, we've had Islam, and we've had Buddhism. This is our last example of a universalizing religion, and it is Sikhs. It is the Sikhs. So yes, this is Sikhism. The Sikhs are different from Islam. So don't make that mistake. So they are different there. And this would be the Golden Temple. So Sikhism and the Golden Temple. So again, all of these are universalizing religions. All of these religions are seeking to expand and gain followers. Again, when we're studying them, focus on the way they interact with the cultural landscape. Focus on understanding where they originated. Focus on understanding how they diffused. And then if you want also like a brief description of some of like the cultural traits or like the overview of the faith. But don't worry about going through like all of the historical events or all of the different prophets. In this class, we're looking at how places interact, how people interact, how they interact with the environment. It's not a history class. So if you take eventually like AP Worlds, then you'll be going more into all of that stuff where you're focusing on the dates. This class is not focused on the dates. All right. The other type of religions you want to be familiar with are ethnic religions. So ethnic religions, anyone have an idea what this would be? What do we got? So yes, this would be Hinduism. Yes. So Hinduism. Yes. So Hinduism for ethnic religions. Places of worship. We have the temple there. There's a variety of different other places too that are specific to the faith. Anyone know for this ethnic religion? There's only 2 ethnic religions, which is nice. So we only have 2 ethnic ones. Judaism. Yes, Judaism. Correct. And for house of worship, anyone know? What do we got? All right. And it'd be a synagogue. Well, stone wall there. Yes. It would be a synagogue. Correct. Yes, that would be the house of worship. All right. So again, these are the only religions you have to worry about. You do not have to worry about studying all of the different religions in the world. So save your time. You don't have to worry about memorizing every single event about them. Focus on the universalizing and ethnic religions, and then those specific ones. Those are the ones that are in the CED, the course exam description, and those are the ones that could be on the AP test. All right. We're getting down there at the end of this unit. The other part, though, is language. Now, we're not going to go into all the language family and trees just for time's sake. We've already been going for 40 minutes, so I'm trying to make sure we're efficient there. But when we're looking at this, isogloss is one thing that you'll want to be familiar with. This is a vocab term that connects into language, and this would be a boundary. So we'll talk more about boundaries in Unit 4, but an isogloss is one that is defined by linguistic differences. Now, oftentimes inside an isogloss, we'll have a dialect. Now, a lot of people comment on my dialect. These are regional variances that occur in a form of language, and generally it's based on the local culture. So, for example, maybe your teacher has noticed, or you've noticed, like when we get to Unit 5 and I say agriculture, which I realize I think I'm saying now, egg. But anyways, it always sounds like when I'm saying it like egg, like agriculture. I know also too, like when I'm talking, if I'm going to talk about milk, if I'm not like consciously thinking about it, it'll sound like milk. So that would be forms of dialect. One of these times it'd be fun to actually make a video of people saying different things. Some people are saying, thank you, Brennan, is saying I'm famous for that. So yes. Well, there you go. When I worked at the Mall of America, we had people that came from all over the world, and they always thought that when they got here, that Minnesotans we would talk a very specific way. And they're always surprised. They always thought we were like Canadians. So we'd get a lot of people who would be like, "Oh, I thought you talk like, oh, hello there. Welcome to Minnesota, don't you know? Oh, boy, do we got some great food for you. You can come get some nice, good old tomatoes. We got those tomatoes, and we also got that cornbread and, those casseroles. Oh, it gets a little chilly here, but we don't talk like that." So, fun fact, in case you didn't know. Yes. All right. We'll go into the next thing. Irish accent. Stop the yap. You're on a live review. Welcome to the app. I'll deal with it. But other parts that we have, everyone's saying there, lock it in. Okay. We've gotten off track there. Other times that when you need to, or concepts you need to know with language, is endangered and dead language. That could also come up. So if we're connecting back to some of the vocab, endangered, just think of endangered species, endangered animal. There's a risk of it disappearing, except for instead of animals, we're talking about language. Generally, this happens because over time, as globalization has occurred, as we've seen the diffusion of technology, it promotes more English. It promotes more of a homogenized culture. And so these folk cultures or traditional cultures start to get replaced. And eventually, as the older generation dies off, the newer generation was more interested in global culture. They lose the translations there and those practices. And that would then lead to a dead language, a language that is no longer spoken as native by any community. So those would be the concepts to have an idea of there. Hopefully that helped. Let's see here. Okay, cool. I was going to sneeze, I thought, but I'm not. Okay, we're good. All right. If you do need more help with any of the languages, I realized I didn't go into all the language families. I did put like a cheat sheet in here for the language families, looking at the origin points and stuff, and then like some little things to help. There is also a quiz that's just identifying where they are. So if you want, you can definitely check those out. It's in the ultimate review packet if that'll help you out there. Cool. We're almost done. We're at the very end of this presentation. Then we're going to switch over to the wonderful Kahoot. Remember, we've already talked about these centripetal and centrifugal forces. Definitely know these concepts. They come up in multiple units. Centripetal forces. Think about it's pulling people together. The P for pull, it's pulling people together. Centrifugal, the F for force, we're forcing people apart. And so different things can cause this to happen. Depending on what's going on in society and culture, this will kind of shift between the two. So just realize that sometimes even actually negative events. So like some people said like 9/11, they were talking about in the chat, that would actually be a centripetal force for the United States. As horrific of an event as it was, it brought the country together. It united people. Centrifugal forces, again, for example, countries that have a lot of different languages and people can't understand each other, they can't communicate well, that could lead to more centrifugal forces because people will get pushed apart. So there's a ton of different examples that if you want, we could go over later. But for time, we're not going to go over them all now. Very last things that we have that I want to talk about. I'm going to put these on the screen here. These terms, make sure you have an idea of. This also could connect into Unit 2 as well. Perfect timing. Some people are asking, can you explain assimilation? Yes. Yes, we can. Bathroom break. Good luck. Don't fall in. All right, back to the review. Remember, with assimilation, we're talking about this individual or group of people, and they're just adopting that cultural norms, the practices of the dominant group in society. Historically, we have also seen forced assimilation. Yesterday in the Kahoot, we talked about Native American boarding schools. That would be forced assimilation because these boarding schools were created to take indigenous people and actually get them to forget their culture. They focused on the kids. They couldn't wear their cultural clothes. They couldn't speak their language, often had to get haircuts. And they were trying to force them to assimilate to Indo-European culture, into the American culture, American as in like the United States. Not Native Americans, but that would be the forced assimilation. So there could be forced, but it can also happen naturally as well. Now, this is different than acculturation. This is when a culture is going to take certain traits of another one. The original culture is not shot, or sorry, I quick looked over. I saw a shout out on the chat as it's like flying by, but the original culture is not lost. That's what I meant to say. This is different than syncretism, which is when we have two or more cultures actually evolve and they change kind of over time. They're not merging though. So they still remain distinct cultures. We're not losing the two cultures. And multiculturalism, again, society here, we have a lot of diversity and they coexist kind of within. Some people are asking like syncretism and creolization for different aspects of that. Remember with syncretism, syncretism's referring to this merging of different religions, cultures, these schools of thoughts, all this stuff that we've kind of looked as religious in these cultural contexts. They're blending different beliefs together. And then they're coming out of that is these new traditions. So a whole new kind of cohesive culture. So syncretism often can happen when a lot of diverse cultures come into contact together and they find this common ground. And then we have this result of this kind of hybrid culture forming. Creolization, on the other hand, again, often connects back to colonization. Generally, that one's focused more linguistically. So cultures blending, occurring in different regions. We have a lot of diverse people there come into contact, again, through that colonization, sometimes slavery or trade as well. This term actually connects back to like Creole languages, which some people mentioned earlier in the chat. So that one would focus there. Over time, that process has started to include other aspects of culture, such as like cuisine, like so food and music and social norms. But that'd be kind of the difference there that we're looking at. All right. Again, if you're interested, don't forget, if you want more practice, check out the Exam Slayer. It's got 80 multiple choice questions, FRQs. It's got the highlight video where I go over like the big topics, vocab, and a ton of different things for, and I'm trying to get the Kahoot up, for the actual unit and test prep. So everything in the Exam Slayer is all about test prep. Ultimate Review Packet is all about learning. All right, we're going to get into the Kahoot now. So we're going to get that set up. If you're watching this, quick, got to do my outro for the YouTube peoples. So if you were just watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm Mr. Sinn. Don't forget to check out tomorrow for Unit 4 at 7 p.m. Central Time. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'll see you online. Woo. All right. That was all right, let's go over to the Kahoot for the people in the chat. Real quick, if you're in the Discord server, this helps with like making sure it doesn't crash. I'm going to post the Kahoot right now. 3. All right. So if you're in the Discord server there, you can see there's the code. So the Discord server, it's free to join. We have over 22,000 people in it. Actually, the last couple of days, you'll see on the top, they've also been doing Q&A with a bunch of students in there. So if you're interested, check out the Discord server. It's a cool place to be. Okay. Let's get our Kahoot game up. All right. There we go. Holy cow. Do we want the music on or off? Can you guys hear the music? I don't even know. All right, here we go. I'm going to now get into the chat a lot more. All righty. Question. My mic cut out at the end of there. Oh, shoot. Well, that's awkward for the people who were not here live. All righty. Question 1. Here we go. All right. Okay. Catching up on some of the super chats. Shout out to Miss Toast Slacks. First hour, I apologize. Pronunciation, like I said, is not my strong suit. So I really apologize. But thank you for being an amazing teacher. And thank you for the shout out. All right, yes, cultural divergence. So again, divergence, we're splitting apart. The Mori and the Moriori, this connects actually back to Jared Diamond, Guns, Germ, Steel, which promoted more environmental determinism. You don't have to know the book name. You don't have to know the author. But they split physically, which led to eventually cultural divergence there. Remember, those people who put convergence, that would be the cultures are coming together. They're merging more into one. All right, let's see here. Here we go, our leaderboard. The fabulous Gator in the lead. Ooh, only by 1 point. Very close game. All right. Shout out to Dr. Spires, 4th period. Wish him luck against beating Mr. Robinson in scores. Good luck. You've got this. Shout out and happy birthday to Miss Falco. Happy birthday, Miss Falco. Let's see here. Getting through the shout outs now. Hey, Mr. Sinn, thank you for being a goat. Can you shout out Mr. McGurrick in Louisiana, as well as Mr. Rowan and Sima and Nitin? Question mark. Thanks for these reviews. Also, Brawl Stars live stream win. I would love to do gaming streams again. So that would be actually a lot of fun to do some gaming streams. Yes, McDonald's, remember, things change over time. You can see it right there. That'd be stimulus diffusion. It's all shifting as they diffuse. McDonald's is still the same, but it has changed. I did not forget. Let's see it. Shout out to Mr. Ragland. Can you say scratch it? Okay, scratch it. All right. What do we got? Okay. Switching back there, saying yes, Miss Falco is the GOAT. Congrats, Miss Falco. You are the GOAT. People are yelling out blue. Marvel Rivals. It'd be fun. Let's see. Woo! Yes. All right, cool. Majority of people are getting these so far, which is awesome. Again, global culture, more homogenized. Things become more uniform as it continues to spread, which can lead then to cultural convergence. All right, make sure to post some questions if you have questions. I want to be able to make sure I can help you out there. So here we go. We have some of the religions. Put the religions down. Yes. So when we're looking at it, we have Islam, we're going down Christianity, Judaism, and then Buddhism. So again, here we're just observing cultural landscape. We're looking at different houses of worship, significant places in the faith, and then connecting it into the different cultures there. Ooh, here we go. The Silver Ant in first place. And also, correction, it is Miss Solakis. Miss Solakis. Okay. I apologize for butchering the pronunciation there. All right. Let's go on to the next question. What are examples of lingua franca? That would be English. Creole could be Swahili. That could also be an example of creolization. Let's see. Some people are saying, what was this? Oh, shoot. The comment is gone. It's something about FRQs. I was going to try to get to it. Welcome back, third day. Shout out there to Miss Baxter, Miss Barker from Westside High in Houston, Texas. So shout out. Thank you for coming 3 days in a row, hanging out with us, learning AP Human Geography. And yes, it'd be relocation diffusion. Again, context is going to matter, again, when it comes to diffusion. So generally, originally, most of them did diffuse through relocation. Now, however, once that had occurred, eventually we also saw expansion diffusion happen as well. So realize the context of the question does matter. That can change the type of diffusion. So always read the stimulus, always read the context that's provided on the AP test. All right, Silver Ant still in the lead. Here we go. Question 6 coming up. All right. Someone just asked, shout out to Mr. McDonald's third hour class and wants to know, would I ever come to Kansas to arm wrestle Mr. McDonald? I don't think I would win. I don't know your teacher, but I have a feeling they would beat me. So it'd be cool to see your class and to meet your teacher. But I don't know about an arm wrestle. But all right, here we go. Yes, majority here. This would be multiculturalism. If we start to see like assimilation, remember we are taking on the dominant culture, going to kind of lose our own acculturation. We're going to take some aspects. Synchronism too. We have kind of a blending that is occurring. All righty, here we go. Next one, Silver Ant still in the lead. Which of the following would not be a characteristic of global culture? What do we got? Some people, again, asking about creolization and syncretism. Oh, excuse me. So remember, creolization generally is going to be connecting back to colonization. Syncretism is when two or more cultures are evolving, they're changing over time in a similar manner, but are remaining culturally distinct. Where creolization generally is going to see a new, I forgot that I had this view. What's going on with my hair? Whatever. Creolization is going to be colonization, where generally we'll see a new language and stuff form from it through like this trade and these aspects that are occurring. So like the Creole language down south in the United States came from colonization, created an entire new Creole language through, again, colonization and that diffusion there. All right. And yes, which the following would not be. So this is a not question. Characteristic global culture. Isolated would definitely not be global. And it would be more focused on like urban areas, things that see diffusion. All right. Up next, we have our next question. Where to find the CD? I believe I have the CD linked in the description of this video, so you should be able to find it. Otherwise, type in Google AP Human Geography CD. It'll pop up right away and you can go to it. Or if you want, I also put in the ultimate review packet. It's in the free preview right at the top of the packet. So there's that free 30-day review guide. And I actually took the CD and I broke it apart into a Google, or it's a PDF. So you can actually see everything just laid out and there's a spot for you to take notes. So if that's easier for you, instead of reading through the whole CD, you can just go to the ultimate review packet or the ultimate exam slayer. Both of them at the top have that free 30-day review guide that has a document for each unit, breaking down the concepts that you need to study for all the different topics there. So that's in there, and that stuff's free if you want. It's part of that free preview. All right, which one is being displayed in the image below? We're seeing this relocation diffusion. So we can also see it's happening, kind of step migration here. Concept from unit 2. So this process over time. Origin point, our hearth here, is shrinking. It's moving over as the Mormons go through and eventually go to Utah. All right. Not a lot of changes in the leaderboard. We'll see what happens. How can I go from a 2 to a 4? Step 1, realize that you are not at a 2 yet. The AP test has not happened. Anything is possible. I had a student in my class. She got an F on her first unit 1 test. On the multiple choice, she got a D, and then the FRQs, completely bombed it. She got an F. And she ended up becoming one of the best students that I have ever had. She got 5 on the national exam, and it's just through studying and practicing and not giving up. If you're taking, maybe we'll just wait quick for this to be done, because I feel like a lot of people are in this like kind of stage. If you're taking a practice exam right now and it doesn't go well, don't get discouraged. Seriously. The best thing you can do is, if you're not doing well, honestly, it's almost more helpful, because what you need to do now is look at what you got wrong, figure out what units that your stuff connects to. So like if I got questions 5, 6, and 8 all wrong, what units do they connect to? Go study those units. Review the weak spots that you have. Then go back and take another test and see how you improved. And if it still didn't go well, that's okay. You've got time, geographers. That's the best part right now. You're here right now. You're studying. You can do this. You need to have confidence. I'm not trying to plug this stuff again. That's why in the Exam Slayer, I have it where when you finish a test, it tells you exactly where it is. You don't need to get it. You can also do it on your own if you want. But take tests, take practice tests, see what you got wrong, figure out your weak spots. Don't get discouraged. Then go and review and focus on that. Before you know it, you'll continue to improve. All of you are smart and capable. You're doing things that other students in your class, in your grade, they're not doing. They're not taking AP classes. It's harder. Regardless of what people say online about easy APs or hard APs, any AP is harder than a normal class. You're taking a risk and a challenge, and be confident and happy in yourself. And at the end of the day, honestly, it's just a test. Don't let it define you. All right. I will end the little pep talk or whatever right now. We'll go back to all this stuff, but you got to have confidence. All of you guys are so phenomenal as students, and I get that things are hard, and I just want you to believe in yourselves, because I know you can do this. All right, here we go. Which religion is below? We've talked about this one a lot. It would be Sikhism there and the Golden Temple. So yes, we can see who is paying attention and who is not. Oh, we got a leaderboard change, not at the top, but in the middle. So the Dr. Snail moving up. Here we go. Some people asking where you can find more practice tests. If you want, join the Discord server that I have and link in the description for free. There's a bunch in there that students have made. The Exam Slayer that I made, it's all practice tests. I have a practice unit test for every unit. There's 2 full practice AP tests. And then I have a bunch of videos in there that are breaking down tests and explaining it. And I try to animate them so they're interesting for you. Ultimate Review Packet has stuff too. There's also a ton of stuff online. You can just type it in. Even for FRQs, Google past FRQs for AP Human Geo, and you'll find stuff. You can see the rubrics there. You can take them and you can self-grade. So it can help. The link's not there. I'll post the link for the Discord if you're interested. So, all right. Yes. For the largest one, it would be Hinduism. That would be correct. That'd be the largest ethnic religion. Taoism is not necessarily what you need to know for the class. It's not in the CD. Islam and Christianity, this is Confucianism, also not in the CD. Islam would be, though, a universalizing religion, which would be one of the larger universalizing ones. All right, Carrying Puffin moving into the lead. Way to go. All right, I'll get that Discord link. All righty. So for those of you who want the Discord, I can try to pin it to... Sorry. If you want the Discord link, that is the Discord link right there. So if you want to join, by all means, feel free to join and you can check it out. All right, majority of people got on. Oh, Silverhand back on top. Got some changes going on. There we go. Yes. For those in the Discord, there's also a review section. Actually, there's a study chat right now. It looks like, with how many people are in it? There's 12 people in an AP Human Geo study chat. Although it looks like they're playing games. I think they're playing Land.io. Not to call them out. I kind of just called them out. Mark that resolved. Now a bunch of people are joining the Discord servers like, hey, what's going on? All right. And it is Islam. Yes. So again, when we're looking at images there, anyone know what this is or where this is? What do we got? Let's see. Mecca. Okay. The Hajj, the Kaaba. Yes, that'd be a Kaaba there. So that'd be a very important religious site for Islam, which would be a universalizing religion. People ask, do my resources cost money? I try to do a lot of things for free. The only thing that does cost money, my ultimate review packet and the ultimate exam slayer. Discord server's free, so I pay for the stuff there and you don't have to worry about that. I also try to make sure there's a YouTube video for every topic, doing all these live streams. Try to make as much stuff as possible free. But it's also me who buys all this stuff and does everything. So the ultimate review packet and that's what kind of like pays for all the equipment and that stuff. So yes, the ultimate review packet and the exam slayer costs money, but that is because that's what funds everything. So I can make sure I can do all of the free stuff and things like this. And also it just takes a lot of time and resources even to make it, all of the videos and things of that nature. So that would be why. If you're interested, by all means, check it out. If not, no big deal. I get it. So I just want you to study the best possible way for you. All right, when we're looking at this is just looking at, again, those language families where we're looking at like a language branch, group, dialects, things of that nature. If you need a little bit more time studying it, this is a very like specific vocab thing. You can. I wouldn't spend too much time though when you're looking at the languages. Like, don't worry about memorizing every single language family. I think in the CED, the only one that's specifically mentioned by name is Indo-European. So maybe make sure you spend a little time reviewing that one, but that's the one that's specific by name. I'll double check that. And if I am wrong, I'll correct that in tomorrow's stream because I want to make sure I'm right on that. But I believe that is the only one that's specifically mentioned. All right. Next one there. Here we go. What do we got? All right. We have a shout out to Mr. Witt. Shout out to Coach Gaffey, SKG, and a thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you. I think I read that one. Shout out Miss Antelo. Shout out to you. Shout out to the fifth block. Cool. Fifth block, fifth period. Here we go. Which is the following would not, again, it's a not question. So make sure you're always kind of aware when we're reading these things. So yes, it would not be Eastern Europe. It would be in the Middle East. All of the other aspects of this would be correct. There's actually 3 Abrahamic religions. Anyone know what the others are? So what are the other Abrahamic religions? There's 3 of them. Christianity's one. So we got one. What do we got? Islam would be another one, and Judaism. Yes. So Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, those would be the 3 Abrahamic religions. Those would be the ones, too, whose heart is located then in the Middle East. So that's where the origin point would be. All right, Silver Ant still leading the pack there. Way to go. Apologize for a little break there. Need to get some water. So, yes. So we're looking here at our perspectives. Again, remember ethnocentrism, cultural relativism. These will be the two perspectives there. Majority of people got it. Remember relativism, we're going to look through their perspective. So in this one, definitely ethnocentrism, automatically judging through our own perspective instead of trying to understand, well, why would someone be eating bugs or why would that be part of a diet or a culture? So that would be something to, again, to make sure you have the difference between. What should you do before the test? Good question. Before the test, if you want, we're gonna have a live stream. We're actually have two live streams the day before. One will be for FRQs and one will be for multiple choice questions. Honestly, make sure you know like your task verbs. Get a good night's sleep. If you're going to be, well, you'll for sure be study like the big topics. If there's like some like little small words that you're not sure about, don't waste your time anymore on that the day before the exam. Focus on like the big concepts from the unit. You want to try to get those ones that you for sure can get down that have a higher likelihood of being on the test. Definitely though, get a good night's sleep. Do not stay up all night. It makes it harder to take the exam. It's a long exam and you want to make sure that you have enough rest and stamina for it. And take a practice test if you want. It's a great way to kind of see where you're how you're doing. All righty. Let's go here. Yeah. So this is again just a language family one. I wouldn't spend too much time on these, honestly. Again, I have a resource in the Ultimate Review packet as practice. This is just identifying where these are mainly spoken. So looking at origins or looking at where they are in the world. These are just different language families. All right, here we go. Now some people are asking like, what do I do if I have 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours? That's a good question, right? I'll have to think more. I didn't think of all the possibilities of the amount of time and how you should break it up. But all right, which of the following would not be a centrifugal force for a country? What do we got? All righty. Yes, another country declaring war on the. Oh, there's a typo there. It says the country. Oh well, that happens. That would definitely be not a centrifugal force. Generally, we kind of mentioned this actually in the review. That would be more of a centripetal force because it would unify citizens together against a common enemy. So that would not be centrifugal. Remember, centripetal forces are going to pull people together. Centrifugal, F for force people apart. And that'll come up again in Unit 4 and some of our other units. All right, here we go. Question 19. Which of the following best illustrates a cultural landscape created by a minority culture going against modern culture? We got, I think I missed this one. The goat. Thank you. You are very welcome. Thank you much for the super chat. Very kind of you. People are saying green. Is there a specific percentage you need to get for a 5? Don't worry about like the specific percentages of, honestly, the people who are going to get a 5 and stuff, you're not going to spend too much time worrying about trying to like break down like what gets a 5, what gets a 4, what gets a 3, because that's time you could have been studying and preparing. Like as fun as it is to like go to some of the sites, that's like, okay, if I get this score, then I'll get this on the test. Or if I get this on the FRQ, you want to focus on reviewing the content. And the more time you spend doing that, the less time you're reviewing and actually preparing. So make sure you're actually reviewing things that are going to help you get that score. And believe you can do it. Confidence. We talked about that earlier. All right. Yes, graffiti would be the correct answer there. Cultural landscape, protesters in the street. Sure, that would show like a minority group going against. But if we're looking at the cultural landscape, generally we want to look at a modification that's been made, something that we can see there. So graffiti would be a little bit better of an answer, and it would connect again into that minority group. So graffiti would then be actually like spray paint or whatever maybe on the side of a building or a billboard or things of that nature, which would then become part of that cultural landscape. Here we go. All right. Which of the following would be part of the cultural landscape? Um, okay, a bunch of people. I'm trying to catch up. Some people are saying thanks, Ella. Shout out to Lori, freshman center. Cool. And the chat's very hard because it goes so fast, even with the slowdown on. So we'll see there. Which of the following would be part? There we go. When we're looking at it, this would be Aztec ruins. Yes, again, large forest. There wouldn't be any like modification that has happened. Coastal wetlands, eroded shoreline. None of these have like that human characteristic human intervention and connection. Aztec ruins, we can see actually also, if we connect. Can anyone remember another term that this could be an example of? If we're connecting to Aztec ruins, like today, Aztec ruins would also be another example of a certain term. We talked about it in our review. Aztec temples, ruins. What do we got? Some people are saying relic boundary, built environment could count. Sequent occupancy, yes. Remnants from our past cultures influencing the cultural landscape today. Sequent occupancy. Yeah, that could also connect there as well. So again, making connections into a variety of different things. The gum wall. Are you referencing the gum wall in Seattle? That's a crazy wall. If anyone's ever looked at it. If I start studying right now, 5 days before the exam, would you be able to get a 4 or a 5? Yeah, for sure. You still could. The more you study, the more work you put in, obviously it makes it easier. Also, everyone's at different levels. Some people might, if you've paid attention in your class all year and you've been participating and engaging, you might have to study a little less because hopefully you've learned a lot of the stuff. If you haven't been, maybe you need to pick it up now and you're going to have to all of a sudden absorb a lot of information that'll be more difficult. So every student's different. It depends on where you're at, but you definitely can still get a 4 and 5, even if you're studying now. Obviously, the sooner you start, the easier it is, but you still can do it. And this would be a custom. Yep. So not a taboo. That'd be going against social norms. Fad would be something temporary. So some people are asking, what's a fad? A fad would be something really temporary. For example, fidget spinners. Those were kind of a fad for a while. Like all these kids use fidget spinners. Now you don't see them as much there. And then the heart there would be the origin point where something started. Taboo again would be going against like social norms, like something that like cannibalism is taboo. It's also so taboo it's illegal, but it is significantly frowned upon in culture. Like if you did that, you'd be like isolated and shunned. So that'd be more of a taboo. All right, question 22 of 25. Some people asking, can you score a half point on the FRQ? No, the FRQs, it's going to be 1 or 0. So that's also why each FRQ has 7 parts. So let's say you get like part A wrong, you just lose 1 point. But if you got B, C, D, E all the way down, you'll get the other 6 points. So each part is worth 1 point. You're either getting 0 or 1. There's no middle ground there. So again, when you're doing the FRQs, make sure you're very specific in your answers. Remember to study the task verbs because you want to make sure you aren't writing too much. You're not also not writing enough. And you need to remember too that like the reader can't ask you for a follow-up. So with FRQs, you want to make sure that when they're reading your answer, they know exactly what you're saying. So again, here's a language family. We're just looking at where it's displayed, the location there. We have a split between the two there. That one's just straight memorization. As we get farther and farther down, the language families, I wouldn't spend too much time on them. Again, maybe you get a question or two and you miss one of them, but you got to focus on like those easier pickings, things that'll be more prevalent. The one thing that's nice about the AP exam is questions are going to be on all of the different concepts. And so maybe you miss like a couple concepts here and there, but hopefully you have a good idea of the broad things of the course, and so you can get the majority there. Some people are asking how many sentences would I recommend for an FRQ? It depends on the task verb. Explain, compare those. You definitely are going to have multiple sentences. An identify task verb or a define, you could have just one. One sentence would probably be fine. That'd be okay there. So it all depends on the task verb and what it's asking. According to the map, Buddhism, yes. So this is just trying to look at a stimulus here, and then you're reading it, trying to make connections to see where something is spreading. So it's kind of hard to see a little bit, but again, we can see we have Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity. We have by the centuries here. So over time, where it's spreading, we can see the origin points and as it diffuses there. So this is an example of having to read a map and then you're answering a question by it. The nice thing with these types of questions, again, is the answer's right in front of you. The downside is on the AP test, if you're going too fast and you panic, you might make a mistake because you might quick read it and you miss a detail that you needed for the answer. So always make sure you take your time when answering these questions. All right, question 24 of 25. Here we go. Coming up. Shout out to Mr. King's Human Geography class from Lori Freshman Center. So shout out there. Some people saying, am I all right if I start studying Monday? Also, what unit should I focus on to do good for the FRQs from Moss? So for the FRQs, we'll go more in specifics the day before the exam there, but each of the units for like the AP test, especially the multiple choice, is going to make up about 12 to 17%. So besides unit 1, that one's a little bit less. It's pretty evenly distributed. For the FRQs, generally, you want to make sure you have spent time learning like the models and the theories, those bigger concepts, especially ones that can connect to other units, because there's a chance that you might be able to make multiple connections then on an FRQ there. But it's definitely not too late to start studying. You got time there. All right, which defines not a universalizing one? Yes, Judaism would be an ethnic religion. Ooh, we got change in the leaderboard, but Silver Ant's still up there. Here we go. Question 25 of 25. Here we go. All righty. All right, a lot going on in the chat, trying to keep up with everything. Shout out to Miss Kepler. So shout out Miss Kepler. Shout out to you. You are the GOAT. All right. Yes. So for our last one, the majority of people got, which is great. Again, this is a not question, so always pay attention there. So here we're looking at which of the following is not one of the ways globalization has impacted the world. So indigenous cultures continue to grow and diffuse around the world. We can see, no, that's not the case. It's actually the opposite. Because of globalized culture actually replacing a lot of these folk or traditional cultures due to cultural convergence and assimilation. So that's also why some of these cultures tend to try and actually isolate themselves more. Or, for example, like the Amish, they don't want necessarily the impact of technology because they're trying to protect their culture. All right, let's look at our unit 3. Here we go. Tropical duck in third place. The Silly Becks in second. And on the top, the Silver Ant. Woo! There we go. Yes. Awesome. Cool. That is our Kahoot. That was our Unit 3 notes. I'll do a couple quick shout outs, but I'm going to have to get off soon. I got to really rest my voice and kind of actually probably go to bed. But hopefully this was good. Thank you all for joining tonight. I always have a lot of fun doing these. It's great talking to all of you. I realize I miss a lot of your comments. The chat flies so fast, but it's awesome hearing from all of you. Always make sure you thank your teachers for all the hard work they do. If you're interested, again, there's the Kahoot. Oops, I actually meant to show the Discord, but well, that's okay. We'll show the Discord another time. How do I get back though? Yes. All right. And we're back. Cool. So if you're interested, by all means, check out the Discord and the other resources if you need more help. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow. So couple quick shout outs. Shout out to Mr. Jones. You are the GOAT. Shout out to McDonald. Shout out to Dr. Spires. Shout out to Miss Cardinal. Shout out to Miss Cardinal. Shout out to Mr. Bell. Shout out to Ms. Averbeck. Shout out to Mr. Cole. People saying goodbye now. Shout out to Miss Gray. Shout out to Miss Bristow. Shout out to you, Miss Bates. Shout out to Mr. Shannon. Shout out to Mr. Nelson. All right. Shout out to Coach Smith. There we go. So many shout outs. Lots and lots of shout outs. There. Yes. Shout out to Mr. Vazera from Laurie Freshman Center. I think I mispronounced your name. I apologize on that one. So, okay, we got to wrap up though. It's already been an hour and 25 minutes. All of you are awesome. Thank you so much for showing up today, for hanging out. It's always fun. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for Unit 4. As always, I'm Mr. Sinn. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And until next time, I'll see you online. Woo!